Good evening, everybody. And tonight, I know it's been about 3 weeks, but tonight we're going to have a good show. I have some information I want to share first. Again, to Ms. Velta Potter, Ms. Velta Potter Jones, excuse me. The city of Wilmington, the treasurer, she's having a Social Security seminar May the 31st from 12 to 1:30 at the City Council Chambers, 800 North French Street. And I want everybody to understand, I don't care how young you are, how young you think you look, how pretty you are, you're going to retire one day, anything can happen to you. You need to be at this meeting. It's going to be about disability, Medicaid. It's going to be awesome. You're going to have free food, park in the garage. Again, anything can happen. You need to be there. You're going to have expert speakers. And again, let me read the dates to you. It's a Social Security seminar. It's May the 31st from 12 p.m. to 1:30 at the City Council Chambers, 800 North French Street. And this is going to be awesome because I've known people who thought they had this much time and they retire and they found out that they're not getting the money they thought they were. I know people who didn't do some of the right things and got in an accident and didn't have extra insurance, lost their home. So this is very, very important, and it's free. You know, information is power, not education. Information is power. And the better information you have, the better you'll live. So make sure you be at this meeting with the city treasurer, Velta Jones Potter. Everybody need to be there. If you can't come, send somebody there to get some information for you. Okay, and I have one more. There's something going on with the state rep, Charles Potter. It's about the charter schools. And for the city of Wilmington, what I'm hearing is that the kids from the city are not allowed to, I believe, go to the new charter schools in Newark. I'm not sure. State Rep Charles Potter and his colleagues sent a letter to Matt Dinn and sent a letter to Matt Dinn about it. He's going to come on and talk about it more, but you need to contact Charles Potter and find out what's going on, because one of the ways you solve murders and everything else, you educate the children. And I think an educated child or a child who has a trade is less likely to get in trouble. You know what I mean? It's less likely to get in trouble. But also, I want you to pay attention to the politicians who help or who don't help, because they come on the same channel wanting your help. And right now, Wilmington is off the chain. So, again, State Rep Charles Potter, you're doing a good job bringing awareness to this. And everybody needs to go find out what's going on and supporting, because our kids right now are in a disarray. And, again, more education, I believe, is going to help part of the crime anyway, and then poverty. But we're going to talk about that tonight. Tonight I have three great guests. Y'all got to excuse me because things are going on. I'll explain it to you later. But we have three great guests. We have Matt Meyers. I'm going to let each guest introduce themselves. Then I'm going to start asking questions. So I'll start with you, Matt.
Good evening to Julius and everyone out there. Before I start, let me just mention one thing that Julius forgot that also is extremely important. June 24th and 25th, mark it on your calendar right now because you want to start dieting today, so that on June 24th and 25th you can eat all the ice cream under the sun at Rockwood Park, June 24th and 25th. There's a small admission cost. Then you go in, eat ice cream to your heart's content. And quite frankly, I think it's an anti-violence program too. My experience is that kids who are eating ice cream do not commit crimes. Okay? Kids who are eating ice cream do not commit crimes. I don't know what your experience is, Chief. My name is Matt Meyers. I'm the Newcastle County Executive. I'm in my 5th month of office, and we're doing a lot of creative, exciting things, and I'm excited to talk to you about that tonight.
Okay.
And my name is Vaughn Bond, Chief of Police for Newcastle County Police Department, and I was promoted back in March, and so I'm only a few months on the job. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tamarra Morris, and I feel very privileged that Matt put his trust in me to direct the Department of Economic Development for Newcastle County. So thank you for having me.
Okay. Matt, one of the questions, first thing, just briefly, because then I'm going to hit you with a question. Briefly, just give a little background for people who don't know your background.
So I grew up in Wilmington. I'm a native Wilmingtonian. Started my my long career in Brandywine School District schools up in North Wilmington, and moved into the city, graduated from Friends, went away to college and law school, I've taught elementary school and middle school for 4 years, mostly in urban environments. I've started 2 companies in Nairobi, Kenya, where I lived for a year, and I also was a diplomat, a senior economic advisor embedded with the U.S. Army in Mosul, Iraq. I ran for office for the first time last year. So, and we brought some exciting new ideas to the county. We're trying to bring in people with diverse backgrounds, and Chief Bond and Tamarra Morris represent that to some extent. Tamarra in economic development, Chief Bond, of course, with the police, who bring a lot of expertise, decades of expertise in Chief Bond's case.
Okay, what I'm going to do again, I want everybody to give me a little brief background, then we'll go ahead and start any questions.
Okay.
Chief, give us a little background, your experience.
Well, I'm Vaughn Bond, originally born in Virginia, but I've been in Delaware since I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Graduated from Glasgow High School, graduated Delaware State College, now Delaware State University. Been on the police department now for 26 years, held every supervisory rank within the police department to my appointment to Chief of Police.
And this young lady here, no, I'm not even going to embarrass her, but I've known her for a long time. I won't embarrass her, but go ahead.
Just as long as you don't put up any of those pictures
I got
that
some
you
pictures
have
when
of
she was
me.
little, but I'm not going to embarrass her, though.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate that. But
All
yes, I've known you my entire life. I am from Wilmington. The rivalry that Matt and I have is I went to Tatnall and Matt went to Friends. I left Wilmington, went to college in Baltimore, and then I spent about 13 years in Atlanta. I was responsible for new business development for a property management firm in Atlanta, and decided it was time to come home to be closer to family. We've got little kids in our family now. It's really tough to be Aunt Tammy from Georgia. So I came back, and I've been very privileged to come across some really amazing opportunities, and this is one of them, being a part of Matt's team at Newcastle County. It's a great experience so far. 5 months in, and I'm still having a lot of fun. So.
Okay. Matt, you wrote an article in the newspaper about, you did an editorial about local contracts, barriers to county bids, all that requirements. Can you explain a little bit what you was talking about when you wrote, and it was a great article in the editorial.
Sure. When I came into office, 2 weeks after being sworn in back in January, I had a sit down with my chief financial officer, and he showed me the budget picture. The budget picture was not a good picture. We, this year, are spending $5.2 million more than we're taking in as revenue. Next year, at that time, we were projected to spend $12.9 million more than we were taking in. And the following year, in fiscal year 2019, we were expected at that time to spend $21 million more than we take in. Now, you and I know you can't run a household like that. You can't just keep spending when you don't have the money to spend, and the same is true of government or any other organization or business. So we had to do something. I had a choice. A number of people came to me, not including Chief Bond or Ms. Morris. A number of people came to me and said, Matt, you need to raise taxes. I said, before we raise taxes, we need to deliver efficient government. We need to look in every department of our county government and make sure we can look the taxpayers in the eye and say we are delivering an efficient government to you. And so that's what we've been working on since January. One thing we found is that in contracting, we have, in the past 10 years, sent $31 million of county business to build libraries, to work on buildings and parks and sewers, $31 million of business out of state that could have been done in state, and we're spending each year between $2 and $5 million extra on projects that we don't need to spend. The reason is, in 2007, a number of county councilmen, forward-thinking county councilmen, said we need to encourage apprenticeship, right? We need to encourage apprenticeship and training. Therefore, any county construction contract should only be to companies that are enrolled in a licensed apprenticeship program, a program licensed with the state of Delaware. The problem is that certain trades, such as roofing, right? Roofing. We want to put a roof on Bear Library, which was the case 7 or 8 years ago when we built the new library in Bear. We want to put a roof on that library. The problem is that the apprenticeship programs are all out of state. Therefore, we end up hiring out-of-state contractors, even though we all know roofers who can do roofing in-state. What Councilman Penrose Hollins, with Councilman Street support, with Councilman Smiley support, a lot of support on county council, what he proposed was modifying the apprenticeship requirement so it only applies to those trades where there's a license program in the state of Delaware. And so I was saying that I support that. I support apprenticeship programs, and I support certainly job training opportunities here in Delaware. And I thought this was a smart modification that would both save the taxpayers money and keep more county business in state.
Let me just say that we've been, and I'm a union guy, but I'm about jobs too, so it doesn't have to be union. It saddens me when I ride through the whole state of Delaware and see all these out-of-state tags. Right. And I go through the city and the county and see all these unemployed young people who want to work.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you're doing that, because it's sad. And I've always said, and some people might get pissed off, but I don't care.
To be honest, Julius, I'm not big on giving advantages to one group over another. When I have taxpayer dollars, I like spending it the best, most efficient way possible. But all this is about is giving our local guys a fair chance.
That's what I'm saying, because the only thing, and like I said, especially in the city, the only thing I see in the city is 2 people hire African-American men in bulk or in great numbers, the Port of Wilmington and DOC. And it got to stop. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate what you're doing, because a lot of people, you ride through, all you see is out-of-state tags working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But we're paying the taxes for somebody, and our kids are out of work.
Right.
Okay. Chief, I want to. Okay, you were the first African American. Just talk about some of the things that you're trying to do. And one of the things I want to ask is that how are you going to make people feel comfortable, try to close the gap as far as trusting the police officers? How are you trying to fix that? What's your ideal on trying to fix the distrust, the disconnect in the community?
Well, for me, there's a couple main focuses that I have and things that I'm looking to accomplish during my time as chief of police. The main focus I have right now is just that, community relations. Working with the community, being involved with the community, establishing trust. Another concern of mine is our approach to those who are suffering from mental health, mental illness. Many of the individuals that we come into contact with suffer from mental illness, and as a result of them being unable to process their actions and situations, they often find themselves on the receiving end of a police call for service. And so one of the things that we're looking to do, and that I'm looking to do, we have a strong partnership with NAMI, which is a mental health organization here in Wilmington, where they're spread throughout, but they have a chapter here in Wilmington, where we're sending officers to additional training. The officers receive training in the police academy. However, we have crisis intervention training, where we actually put officers through a 40-hour course that is put on by NAMI and some other groups. And this actually gives us the opportunity to get advanced training so that we're able to de-escalate situations as opposed to using force against a person who's suffering from mental illness. As far as your question about the community relations, there's no secret that over the past several years, especially after the Michael Brown and Ferguson incident, that there has been an issue between law enforcement and the community. And there's a lot of people ask me all the time, has anything changed? And one of the things that I say is that many things have changed since Ferguson. And I think that police departments now are really taking a closer look at how they're dealing, how they're interacting with the community, their response to the community's demands on police service. One of the things that we're trying to focus on, and we make sure that every officer is aware, is that as a police officer, you just don't report to your supervisor. Your supervisor is not your only boss. There's 550,000 residents here in Newcastle County. Each one of them are our boss. We respond to their calls. They dictate what we do. And so for us as a law enforcement in Newcastle County Police Department, the focus has been getting it back into the community. We were able to get a grant where we hired 15 additional officers, and we classified them as community engagement specialists. So what they do is they are an extension of our community services program, or community services unit, where they do community outreach, going into the community, talking, attending community meetings, finding out what are the issues in that community and what we can do about it. And it's not just the police, but it's also bringing in other stakeholders, other departments within Newcastle County and outside of Newcastle County in order to deal with situations and problems that are occurring. So,
let me not to cut you off. One more question I'm hit. How has the opium problem affected the police department? Because I'm quite sure that added an extra burden on the police department.
yes, it has. We see it in terms of a rise in our property-related crimes, your burglaries, your thefts. Actually, right now, burglaries are trending down, but the thefts, the petty thefts that are actually going up, the breaking into vehicles at night, looking for property that they can easily take and get money for so that they can get the next fix. There's also more of a demand on the police department to do more with the individuals who are suffering. We have a Hero Help program that was initiated by the police department where individuals who are suffering from a substance abuse problem, mainly if it's heroin, they can come to our police department and we send them to the Northeast treatment facilities over off Kirkwood Highway where they can actually go in and start treatment right away. So we're doing a lot of things with that, but it's a demand on the police department.
Okay. I just wow. What are you doing? Because again, you come from a situation where economically, what are you trying to do to improve? Because sometimes we have to think outside the box. So,
Yes.
go ahead.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned thinking outside the box, because working for a county executive who makes decisions based on doing the right thing for the people in Newcastle County allows us to think outside the box. So as far as economic development, we are focusing on many different initiatives. One that we are in the tail end of is, and it falls in line with attracting new businesses and new companies to Delaware to grow jobs, and that's the Del Monte deal. Del Monte is actually opening the largest manufacturing and distribution center in North America here in Newcastle County. So that's going to be hundreds of jobs once they get up and running. So we're very excited to be a part of the Delaware team that brought Del Monte here, that is bringing Del Monte here.
Right.
In addition to job creation, we also have to look at quality of life issues. You have to, economic development is a part of the conversation at every table whenever you get a group of people together, and it doesn't just stop with job creation. We have to allow people who live in the state of Delaware, in the city, in Newcastle County, to feel better about themselves, to feel better about where they live, to feel more connected to what's happening in the neighborhoods, and that way they actually feel tied into what we're doing. So yes, we're trying to increase support for small business and medium-sized businesses in Newcastle County. We have a working relationship now. There's a culture of collaboration with the City of Wilmington, Newcastle County, as well as state agencies to start working together. We all have the same initiatives as far as making Delaware the best that it can be, and now we're working together to grow jobs, to increase quality of life.
So y'all communicating now.
We're communicating now, yes, yes, which is it's a big step, and I'm really proud to be a part of those conversations. We are working together now, so it's exciting.
County Exec, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you've been in the office, I think, 180 days. You did something different than I think anybody. You had a town hall meeting on social media a lot. Explain that.
First of all, it's only 164 days. I'm not at 180 days. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get you back. Go
Counting.
ahead.
Look, I think the world is very different today than it was a year ago, very different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I think democracy is very different now than it was when this country was created. It's very different than it was when I was growing up as a kid. And we need to constantly be looking for new tools to reach out and engage people. I find it very interesting that not that many people participate in democracy. I think people are often discouraged. You hold a meeting to talk about an important issue, a neighborhood meeting, and not that many people come. Not enough people vote, right? But I find when you get in front of people and you find creative ways to say, hey, you out there participate, whether it's through Facebook or Instagram, whether it's through holding creative community meetings, whether it's through blasting out in the newspaper that, hey, come to my office anytime after 3 p.m. on Wednesday. and you can talk to the county executive, you can talk to the mayor, you can talk, people then engage. And so that's what we're constantly looking to do, for creative ways to engage all corners of the county.
But normally a town hall meeting might have 20. How many does it have when you do social media? 40? Just show me the
Well,
numbers. What was the numbers like?
We've done 2 of them.
What was the number?
Each time we had over, I know one time we had over 150, and I think the second time we had over 250 who participated at live, real time. In addition, we had, I know for the first one, I believe there were close to 10,000 views. So there's an advantage that, hey, if I come to your neighborhood for an in-person town hall and you miss it, you probably miss it. But in the case of a Facebook town hall, not only can you watch it later, but you actually can comment on it later, and we'll still have an opportunity to respond to your question.
So Barack type thing. That's how he changed the game. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go to a commercial, but I want to also first congratulate Dr. Nina Anderson for winning Small Business Owner of the Year. And she played the national anthem at the 87ers, and the 76ers owner was there, and they asked her to play. But I want the viewing audience to see this video, to see what type of talent we have here in Wilmington, Delaware. Ivan, if you can play that real quick.
Please welcome to the board, having the privilege of holding our American flag tonight, the Sixers Foot Squad and all of our local Boy Scouts. In advance, please rise and remove your patch for a violent rendition of our national anthem by the Executive Director of Togo Community Health, Sickle Cell Specialty Treatment Center. She was elected by the Small Business Association as Delaware's 2017 Small Women-Owned Business of the Year, for which ceremonies will be held at the DuPont Country Club, May 3rd at 6 p.m. Please welcome to the board, Dr. Nina Anderson.
All right, again, just wanted to thank her. And for the young lady down at the end, I'm glad you came back, because a lot of times, a lot of our talent goes to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you back. Who did we leave off with?
I think I answered. I think it's Chief's turn.
Chief. Okay.
Chief's up to bat.
Yes.
Chief, okay, again, you was talking about the mental illness. I wish that the state hospital can get back involved, because a lot of the money's been taken from the state hospital to the prison system, and they have a lot of people with mental illness in the prison system. So, but again, just talk about some of the things that you want to talk about as a new chief.
Well, getting back to the main focus for me, again, like I said, is the community outreach. Also, reaching out to the community to talk about crimes of violence. One of the things that we have to figure out in law enforcement is, right now, there is a rise, obviously, in the number of shootings, homicides that are taking place throughout the state of Delaware. And I think that the community is starting to recognize and realize that they play a critical role in this. A lot of times people believe that the law enforcement is the ones solely responsible, and I beg to differ. I think that the community has to come forward. There's something wrong when individuals who are dedicated and committed to going out to commit a homicide no longer fear doing it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a crowded street. They're doing that because they understand and they believe that the community is not going to come forward with information. Unlike several years ago when I started on this police department, if you had a homicide, the phones were ringing because people wanted to come forward and give information. Now, people don't want to cooperate. People are afraid to talk about what they see.
That's the key.
And
afraid.
They're afraid, and there are so many avenues that people are able to get information in anonymously. They can go to any major police department has a website where you can submit a tip online anonymously. You can go through Crime Stoppers again, and no one knows your name. You're given a code, and if you're going to be
And let me play devil advocate because I've heard this story, and again, I'm not sure if I give a tip and I get a code. Is there any way if the person gets caught, go to court, the slick lawyer gets that person's information? Or I heard this I'm just playing that I call the police and give a tip, then they knock on my door, pulling me out, asking me questions, and the whole community's watching.
Well, I think law enforcement understands the importance of getting information. Okay. So we receive tips all the time. They may not always be on homicides. Okay. And the one thing that we're not going to do is jeopardize the safety and well-being of someone who wants to come forward and cooperate. A person gives a tip to the police, then it is up to the police to build a case based upon that tip. So if a person is saying that they don't want to be contacted and they call up and they say that Joe Green is who you're looking for that shooting, then it's up to the police department to conduct the investigation and build a probable cause to make an arrest in that case.
Okay.
So Chief, why are you picking on Mean Joe Green?
Well, I like him too.
Okay. This is for both of you and Matt. This is okay. I know that y'all are looking for investment advisory board to oversee investments of $145 million in taxpayers' reserve funds and all that. How is that going? How can I get on the board first?
You did your homework. You did your homework.
Yeah.
So what's happened in the past in the county is the county executive and the finance department could, first of all, the $145 million you referred to, I don't know if that's the exact right number. It might be a little bit less than that. But we have quite a bit of taxpayer funds that we've preserved and saved over the years just for rainy days. If we have a big problem in the sewer system, we have funds to tap into. A big problem in our operations, we have funds we can tap into. The question is, how do you manage that money, right? Because of course you can take $145 million, managed properly, next year it'll be worth $150 million. Year after that, $160 million, so on. In the past, the county executive, in collaboration with the finance department, just manages it at his or her discretion. And I think there's been some questioning about how that's been done in the past. So what we did, modeled after how the state did it, just for absolute transparency, we're setting up a board of experts, perhaps like yourself, to manage.
I'll never get the call.
To manage the funds, right. And so the appointments are made, I believe, if I remember correctly, some by county council members and some by myself.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I was listening to the radio, and Jay Street, it's up, y'all can just jump in. He wants to hire 40 more police officers. And he think, me personally, sometimes we got to look at is the police to me are reactionary.
Right.
What's making stuff happen?
Right.
And that's poverty. And I don't know if you can arrest your way out of it. Anybody can just jump in.
We do need to address poverty. We absolutely need to address poverty. I'm glad that you brought that up because that's actually an economic development issue. Poverty seeps into every issue that we have in society right now. If you have a group of people who feel there is no hope for their life, they make decisions that those of us that feel tomorrow may bring us something won't make. So we have to commit to changing the elements that come out of poverty. And yes, adding police is reactionary. So what we do about making sure that these young people feel they have more decisions or better decisions they can make, that's the real route, I think, to changing what's happening as far as of the violence that we're seeing in neighborhoods today.
Well, now, obviously I have a different take, slightly different. I am not opposed to increasing the number of sworn police officers. Anytime you can have additional resources out there in patrol, doing community outreach, I think that's a benefit for not only the police department, but the community. As far as poverty is concerned, poverty has been here and will always, unfortunately, be here. I think the larger issue that we see, and in my 26 years of experience, is we have a constant breakdown of the family dynamics. And many of these young people who are out here committing these crimes, who are engaged in criminal activity, shootings, things of that nature, if you look at their backgrounds and you follow them home and you see the breakdown of the family, you get a better understanding of what happened. There are people who live in poverty who don't commit crimes. There are people who live in poverty, but if they have a strong family, if they have a strong support system, they can overcome that and they don't resort to crime. So I think that, a lot of focus is always on, and we need jobs. There's no question about that. But I think the bottom line is what their focus has to be is family. Families have to come back together, because I know I grew up in a two-parent household, thank God, and I know that both of them took turns. One would beat me on a Monday, and when they got tired, my mom would pick up on a Wednesday if I did something wrong, and then it would go back and forth. And I don't know if that's necessarily happening today.
I just say, like I said, I'm at the port, and I've been president for the city of Wilmington way back. We had 450 members when I was only 28, then I went to the port. What I see, because I only had my mother, she had 7 kids, but I had a lot of great mentors,
Yes.
Boys Club, Mr.
Yes.
Hart, just different people. But what I see, even at the port, I follow 20 young guys. I've taken some of the worst off the west side and other places. And once they get the port, or once that checks start coming in, and then the older guys are mentoring them, I see a change.
Yeah.
I mean, these are some of the most hardened guys. But
I think the key is what you're saying is, it's not only the job, but you're also talking about the mentorship.
Yeah.
And that plays a critical role too.
But when the guy, first thing, being a man to me is, you always hear taking care of your family. When a guy can support his child support, when he can give his mother, when he can, his walk change, his pride change,
Yes.
he gets a little more.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, and everything you're saying is, I agree with you 100%. But the only second half of it is that even coming out of a poor, if they can get a job, that changes. 'Cause like I said again, the port, I've seen so many, and to me, what's ready to happen, and we're going to do another show, the port's going to lose a lot of jobs. And
Yeah.
with this privatization, they can say what they want to say. On the state side, once they privatize, you're going to have 500 immediate jobs go, and it's going to be, but that's for another day. But I'm definitely going to be talking about it because they're trying to, but once the privatization happens at the Port of Wilmington, it's going to be gone. And people can talk about container ports and all that. A lot of that stuff is automation. If people don't know about automation, you can go to the biggest football field, you got 5 people working. Everything runs automatic, and nobody want to discuss it. I've been in a meeting with one of the guys we got a guy he used to be a consultant for the port. And now he's a consultant for the state. And I asked him in the meeting, I said, I've been around a long time. You was running the state side, you was running the ILA side. Now you're working for the state. I said, well, that's like to me, I go to court Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're my defensive lawyer. Thursday, I go, you working with the prosecutor telling me, but everything gonna be all right. I'm going to jail because you did some slick stuff. And it's gonna be a lot of things happen, but I don't want to go ask this for another day.
Right.
But I just want the community just to be aware. So, but
But
like
I agree with you. And, jobs they're important. There's no question about it. You need money to survive. But I also, hopefully, in the community, we'll start talking more about, trying to find a way to get the families back together.
No, I
Well,
agree.
there's just not one answer. Sorry, boss.
No, go ahead.
There's just not one answer. It's a culmination of making things better and creating well-rounded neighborhoods where people have jobs that actually can support their family, where people are feeling good about where they live, so they want to now participate in making sure it stays clean, or making sure that you call in the tip for whatever it is, that violence or what have you that you saw, because you're tied into this neighborhood. And unfortunately, I mean, the statistics show us that violent crimes are actually in certain neighborhoods. The majority of them are. So we need to focus on these areas and make sure that we are taking a well-rounded approach to start developing these neighborhoods to where this foundation is allowing us to develop children that feel like they have hope for the future.
Yeah, my experience as a teacher is that in every classroom I've ever taught, you have a couple kids who are high performing, incredibly high performing. And actually, as a teacher, it's often very challenging to give them stuff that will push them forward, because my job is to make sure they're at grade level. Well, what if I'm teaching 6th grade math and they're in 9th grade math, right? It would help them a lot and their families and their futures to make sure to push them and say 9th grade math isn't good enough. I want you by the end of the school year to be at 11th grade math, right? And that's what great schools do, and that's what great teachers do. So you got to do that, and you got to do that in communities, right? And find the high performers and say, how do we push you to create jobs and to be a leader in the community, to create opportunities for others? Then in every classroom, you also have a couple kids who kind of do things that I, as a teacher, don't understand, or so far outside my. You come and you say, please sit down, take out your homework, and they're running circles around the classroom. I think that my guess is that's always been the case. You go back 100 years, you'll probably find kids like that who at least maybe couldn't get up and run around because they get whooped, but they at least had that sort of craziness or were lower performing. What's going on now is, for reasons some of which I understand and some of which I don't, 15, 14, 13-year-old kids are pulling out guns and shooting each other, right? And we gotta, and as I think Tammy said, every kid's a little different, and every situation's a little bit different. And it's hard to say it's poverty, it's hard to say it's jobs, it's hard to say it's neighborhoods or families. I think every kid's a little different, and every criminal activity's a little bit different. But we gotta work harder to get in the heads of a lot of these kids, the poorest performing kids, the most at-risk kids, and try to understand what exactly is going on. Some of them have their hearts ripped out at a young age by an adult, right? By a brother, by a sister. Try to understand what's going on and how can we step in there and interrupt that. And some of that, a lot of that's policing work, and a lot of it's not policing work.
How about this, though? I remember if the school system could find a way to hire more male teachers, if they pay the tuition, if you go to any school, whatever, we'll pay 3 or 4 years of your school if you teach 5 years in the school here. Because Chris Rock says it the best. The strongest thing a mother can say to a son, wait till your dad get home. And a lot of times when boys, a man's presence sometimes just changes the game.
Yeah.
That's right.
And now none of us would be nowhere without women, period. So I'm just saying that the combination of the both together, and men, it doesn't have to be the dad, it could be mentors. It could be, but when men are in school, a lot of times there's not a lot of men in school, but the janitors are running things. I've seen they call the janitors there, but boys respond differently than men.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I went to Shortledge Elementary School, we had Mr. Jones, Mr. Nutter. In Garger Middle School, we had Mr. T. His name was Mr. Wins, but we called him Mr. T. Mr. Anderson was the principal. Mr. Pritchett, you had a lot of men who were there, and they were role models. Back in that day, the teachers came dressed like you're dressed right now, and they were role models, and they didn't put up with any nonsense. And they held the males, white or black, to a different standard. And that is part of what what we're seeing now is you don't see as many male teachers in the schools, and I wish it was something that we could get back to.
I agree. I think it's extremely important that we try and engage more men to participate in neighborhoods as far as being mentors. If you're not going to be a teacher, maybe your group adopt in elementary school, because it is actually far-fetched for you to assume that a 15 or 16-year-old young man is going to know how to act like a man if he's not had role models in his life for what a good man is supposed to do. It doesn't just click that how to be a great father, how to be a great provider, how to participate in the community, all of that is something that you either see somebody do, or if you don't see it, you figure it out from the folks that you hang out with. And if we're not giving these young people adequate role models and attention, we can't assume that they're going to just pick it up on their own.
They got a saying, you can't become what you can't see.
Yeah.
And that's why we need more, you know what I mean? Like I said, when Dr. Anderson played the violin, people been doing it for 120 years, but when you see it, it makes a difference. I just also, too, County Exec. Also, I bust him in ping pong. He don't want to talk about that, but we'll deal with that. But I got to say, officer named Mike, very good. Then we had another officer named Smallwood.
Wilmington Police Department.
Wilmington Police.
He had a spin.
Yeah, he beat me one game. Yeah. But people. One of the things I just want to mention on a public service note.
Excuse me. It's called table tennis.
I'm sorry, table tennis.
But one of the things I want to definitely discuss. One of the things that's bothering our community is health, diabetes, all kind of things. We must start eating better and taking care of ourselves better.
Yeah.
You can do that this week. You can do it by going to a local farmer's market at County Parks on Friday at Glasgow Park, Carousel Park, and I think at Garfield.
I think
It's on Friday.
I think it's Garfield.
On Thursday, it's at Rockwood Park, and there are a number around the city of Wilmington as well. So go to your local farmers market. There's great fresh produce there.
We got to start. Too many young guys are leaving here with diabetes and other things, and their quality of life.
Yeah.
But we got to start taking better care in any small activity. I had a guy. One of the things about ping pong, I'm always talking about it. It drops your blood pressure. He paid me 3 months, and he went to the doctor. The doctor asked him what he was doing. Took him off his blood pressure medicine because ping pong, it builds your heart rate up, it drops your blood pressure. It does a lot of health benefits.
Yeah.
Not just, it's a lot of things, but we have to definitely take care of ourselves because it'll give us a better quality of life.
Right.
You know, and we just need to start doing some things so we can just at least be around. Everybody's going to pass, but it's how you live that matters. You know what I mean?
It's actually, they brought it up. Today we kicked off a challenge at our church, at Bethel AME Church, and today was the first day. And that's what it was. It's just a health and wellness event that they hosted downstairs. We did the checks for blood pressure, diabetes. They had a Zumba class down there. And again, Pastor Beeman was encouraging everyone, 3 days a week, 30 minutes of exercise. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I think that it's important. And for me, it's almost every day you try to do something because it's a great stress reliever.
Oh, the best.
And not only that, but it makes you feel better.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There's a new program where by exercising, you can actually give money to your favorite charity, like Boys and Girls Club, for example. It's called
Sickle cell.
Sickle cell. It's called Motivate the First State. If you go to just Google Motivate the First State, you sign up. Anytime you exercise, you log in what you did. Hey, I ran a mile. I played ping pong for 30 minutes. I put flowers in the front yard garden. Anything you do, you go to Motivate the First State, you log it in, and based on the amount of hours and time you're spending over the course of a week and a month working out and being outside and doing whatever, actually you don't even have to be outside, and exercising, there are a number of corporations that are donating money to a charity of your choice.
Now, one of the things also I wanted to ask is this, because it's just too many shootings. How are the city, the state, and the county collaborating together? Because I'm gonna be honest, it's scary, and I'm a rough guy. And even tonight, I had to go past Wilmington. I heard 5 shots. Talking to my buddies before I came here. It's how we're collaborating, because it's off the chain. And how are the state, county, and the city collaborating together to try to narrow the fix? I mean, just to contain it.
Well, I can speak to that. We've had numerous deployments into the city. Newcastle County as well as Delaware State Police and to the city of Wilmington to assist them with some of their hotspot areas, locations where they've had a high volume of either shootings or homicides. We haven't been in there for the past couple months. Chief Tracy, obviously, is the new police chief in Wilmington, and he has some plans that are in place. We stand at the ready to assist them. We are in constant communication with them every day. Our commander of our criminal investigations unit is speaking with members from the Wilmington Police Department investigations units, and we are actually comparing notes. As you know, those that are involved in criminal activity, they don't respect jurisdictional lines, so they're constantly crossing back and forth between the county and the city jurisdiction as well as state police jurisdiction. So it's important for us to maintain open lines of communication, sharing information. They've given us some information where we've been able to move forward on a few cases, and we've done the same thing for them. So it still remains an option for us to go in there. At some point, I imagine we will go in to assist them. But it should be also known that at times Wilmington comes out and assists us with cases and investigations as well. So it remains a priority, and that's the only way I think that we're going to be able to really try to drive down a lot of these crimes, because what we're finding out during the course of investigations is that, you know, a person who did a shooting in the city of Wilmington is also responsible for a shooting out in the county.
I think, too, one of the things that happened, I live in Bear, but one of the things that happened is that a lot of people do things in Wilmington. Their grandmother might live in Bear, and they might go park out there, and people who are looking for them come out there, you know what I mean? And so I'm glad that y'all are collaborating, because, again, I've seen that happen where they running out there hiding, and they bringing that drama with them.
Yes.
You know, so great.
Some of the addressing the problem is about policing, right? The shootings that you're talking about.
Right.
Some of it has to do with other stuff, and a lot of that's about all of us, right? I think us meaning citizens, residents, people who live here in the county and in the city of Wilmington. You know, as Chief Bond knows much better than I do, you go into any of these hardest hit neighborhoods, so-called dangerous neighborhoods, where there are a lot of shootings. You go into any of those neighborhoods, go knocking on doors, you'll find 98% of the people are on the police's side. They want to be in safer communities. They want to see police out there. They want to be able to go outside, send their kids and grandkids out to play. And so there are a lot of allies, and we all need to do a better job tapping into those allies, making it clear to people across the county that we want to work with you and we want you to work with us, because together there's no way that these crazy violent criminals can win. There's no way they can take over our neighborhood.
You know what I would like to see, and I know it might sound crazy, I remember when we was coming up, the African-American Muslims, they had a lot of big problems on Concord Pike. They cleaned it up. I would like to see them get some contracts. DC's worst area, the shooters was off the chain, and the government gave contracts to the African-American Muslims. They cleaned it up. I would like to see a dialogue to get that started, because it's at that point. It's been past that point. But when they go in areas, they clean it up. What they do, I don't know. All I know is that when you ride back through, the kids are playing in the street, and the grandmoms and moms are sitting on the porch. But they clean it up, you know, and I just think that I hope that there could be a dialogue, and, you know, like you said, as far as when they hire people or contracts out, that they could be considered, because, again, it's got to stop.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this got to stop. Now, County Exec, how do you plan, what's some of your plans for your next 100, and you say, I'm not going to say 80, 64 days.
The next 164 days. We just announced, actually in collaboration with the chief and the actually state and federal governments, the most comprehensive program to address the problem of vacant housing in Newcastle County, really in the history of Newcastle County. We're going to do, in the past 4 years, there have been less than 5 vacant homes that the county has pushed into sheriff's sale, less than 5. There are over 1,300 in unincorporated Newcastle County, and we believe over 4,000 vacant homes across the county. Less than 5 we've pushed through sheriff's sale. Now we're going to we're undergoing an ambitious program to push many more of those homes into a share sale, which means that if there's an absentee owner who's not paying his bills, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that absentee owner loses the property or sells the property, and someone out there watching today may have an opportunity to purchase a vacant home at a low price, renovated at an affordable price, in collaboration with Interfaith Housing, Habitat for Humanity, one of our nonprofit partners. So that's one thing, vacant housing, and the chief will tell you, we made a map when we announced our strategy, and what the map showed was, it was a heat map that showed all the concentration of vacant homes across the county, and on top of it, it showed all the highest areas of violent crime across unincorporated Newcastle County, and what it showed very clearly is that they're the same places. Neighborhoods that have 4, 5, 3 vacant homes on a block are the same places very often with the highest level of drug activity and violent crime. So that's one thing we are doing. Another thing we're doing is we are undergoing a performance review where an outside group has come in and they're looking at every department of county government and looking at how we can deliver more efficient governance to you, so we can keep taxes low, we can reduce our spending, but keep the level of service high or even increase the level of service. There's also, as I mentioned, a broad range of really cool programming throughout the summer, mostly at county parks and libraries.
One more thing real quick. Do the county have summer jobs like the city?
The county does have a summer
children?
jobs program, yes.
Okay. And we only have a few more minutes, so y'all can add in, and then I'm going to finish up with the county exec.
My next few days,
Yes.
160.
Whatever you want to say.
No, well, for me, the police department, our primary focus again is providing quality service in a professional way, treating people with dignity and respect. We are about to graduate the police academy at the first week in July. The county executive has given us the authorization to start another academy shortly after that, sometime in the fall, to hopefully get our numbers back up to authorized strength of 400.
Jay should be happy then.
Yeah, he will.
I ain't get you no trouble. I'm just messing with you.
He's gonna get me in trouble.
I'm just messing with you, man. Don't answer that. Do like that. Sometimes he just. I'm sorry.
But that's our focus. To keep our numbers up. We understand the budgetary constraints. However, we have to make sure that we have our numbers up so that we can continue to provide the service that the citizens of Newcastle County have come to expect from us. And we're also making sure that we're reaching out to the Hispanic community. Obviously, there's a lot of things that's going on with them, with the fear of deportation and so forth, and making sure that they feel safe where they can come to the police department and report crimes, because many of them are shying away from police services for fear that they're going to be deported.
So what happens when Trump come here? You think they're going to come out? Don't answer that. Don't answer
I
that.
won't answer
Don't
it.
answer it. Okay. I'm just simple sometimes. Go ahead.
I know we only have a few minutes left, so I'll name one. So across departments, we are putting a huge focus on the Route 9 Library and Innovation Center. It is an absolutely amazing project. The facility itself is state-of-the-art. The programs, STEM program, for example, state-of-the-art programming to not only support the residents that live there, but to also attract citizens to this area to participate in some of these really cool spaces. The phase 2, we're in the process of planning what that's going to be. We're really excited about the opportunity or the potential for Route 9, doing a complete overhaul of that area. There's huge potential there, and making sure that we reach out to the community so that we have their input is huge as well.
Can I just add one? The coolest thing about this Route 9 Innovation Center, it's by far the most ambitious library project probably done in the state's history, and it really came from the community, from May Jarman, actually, in the community of Route 9.
Okay, May's thorough.
Yeah.
We got to wrap up. I want to say one thing. I have everybody knows I train dogs. My dog Theo passed Saturday, and there you go, right up there. German Shepherd, love kids, love people. So I just want to dedicate the show to Theo. And he was named after Theo Gregory, so that's the funny part. But, you know, just wanted to say thank everybody, and we'll see you in 3 weeks. Well, I'm on next Thursday, the first Thursday. We'll be back on the first Thursday and the fourth Thursday. But again, thank everybody. Thank you, County Exec. Thank you, Chief. Always thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
All of our local Boy Scouts. And advance please rise in the Ruger Patch for a violent rendition of our national anthem by Executive Director of Total Community Health, Sickle Cell Specialty Treatment Center. She was elected by the Small Business Association as Delaware's 2017 Small Women Owned Business of the Year, for which ceremonies will be held at the DuPont Country Club, May 3rd at 6 p.m. Please welcome to the board, Dr. Nina Anderson.